Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the FTI Podcast, coming to you live on Facebook, and you can watch or listen to this on Friday, everywhere else, YouTube, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. With us today is another Wayne County driver, car owner, Ryan Prosser. Welcome to the show. Congratulations on being our second guest.
Thanks for having me.
And then, of course, my lovely co-host and other co-host, Chris and Felix are here. As Felix makes his weekly cameo.
If he's not in my lap, he's very sad. So,
yeah, so
better keep him in your lap then.
Chris's dogs constantly pester him throughout the show. It's
I put the other two are hanging out with my roommate's dogs right now, so they don't, fight. If I have all of them, they wrestle and fight and bark. But if I just keep these two, they're cool. They just want a little bit of attention while I sit here and do this.
It's good dogs. We like dogs here too, so that's all right.
Good.
I'm just hanging out with my wife.
That seems to be a theme among our guests so far. Everyone's dogs.
I mean, racing people are basically dog people as well.
Yeah, there's a few cat ones out there too. I know a few of them that are cat lovers. So
I've got cats too. So
well, there you go. See, it fits.
I have no cats. My dogs would probably kill them or eat them.
Mine hates anything that moves, so it would be okay. Loves people, but hates any other animal.
And I'd like to welcome our guests, or not our guests, our viewers, rather. Sorry, I'm not used to having viewers. It's the last, few episodes we've actually we lost one. I thank them and I lose one. But thank you to them as well for being with us this evening. I'm repping my Meyershank Racing koozie that I got on sale on the IndyCar store. I don't know if there's anything still up there, but go check it out if you want some IndyCar gear for a very discounted price. And so, Chris, should we get right into it? I don't think there was much to go in racing this week.
Yeah, the big announcement, and this Ryan can get in on this one too, is the I think we talked about it last week, but now we actually have a guest to talk about it, is the Fast Series taking over Speed Week.
Yeah.
High Limit just kind of ponying that off on, which kind of, to me, like, it's like, oh, that was everyone's fear, is, some of these big important things to the All-Stars, they're just going to it's going to go away.
I was really glad to hear that Aaron had something to do with it, that he's going to try to continue on with that. We've ran with Aaron now for probably the last 3 years. Tried to make most of his shows or run most of his shows while racing at Wayne County, Attica, and just around here. And right now is a great time for any one of these guys, whether it be, Aaron Fry, Randy Fink, this Maverick series. And I hear rumbles of maybe possibly another series of guys that are looking to put something together to help racing around at least this tri-state area, to help keep that up where the All-Stars have kind of went away. Right now, I think we're all in the same boat of trying to look and just see what's going to happen, what's coming down the line, who's going to get to schedule what, and what that's really going to look like, especially in my side of things, being an owner, trying to organize, sponsors and get all that stuff lined up along with drivers and putting things in place to make sure that everything is taken care of and everybody's ready to go when the time is ready. And this is a lot of influx into what we're all used to. So I think it's going to be an interesting off season, to say the least, for all of us.
Yeah. I mean, we're 2 months into like our regional off season, a couple weeks into the full off season in general. And yeah, now everyone's just left wondering, like, are we going to have a date close to around here? Are we going to rely on Fremont and Attica that had more of the all-star schedule? Is that where Brad and Kyle are going to go to? Is Wayne County going to get a date? Because we only had the Speed Week date last year.
Right.
And then the big high limit show. Are we going to get the big high limit show with the weekly or the midweek series, or has that gone away, or are we all just going to have to go settle with a Sharon show because we're just going to go out to Sharon, or is Sharon Outlaws track, or now we're all just left with all these big questions. And for Kyle and I, it's just what we're scheduling around. But for you guys, I mean, yeah, you got to figure out sponsors and all this kind of stuff. I couldn't believe trying to be in your shoes, trying to figure that one out.
It's interesting to say the least this year. At least in the years past, we've been able to, have an idea of what the schedules would look like, or you kind of gather from what they did last year moving into this year, what you're kind of going to see. And this year it's a whole new ball game with Kyle and Brad doing what they've done here with the high limit deal. And who's to know what that's going to look like either. We know they want to get to, 50 races there, 50 race schedule across the country. Where does that leave Ohio, Indiana, Pittsburgh, or Pennsylvania, Michigan? These areas that a lot of us teams, smaller teams that at least race around this area, like to go and compete with those guys for exposure, be it our sponsors, our drivers, selling merchandise, all of those kind of things. It kind of leaves all of us in a funky spot to start the year with, at least for right now, trying to make plans.
Yeah, I do like that they're like I'd rather it all come out at once. They're kind of slowly letting us have some information. The day they announced everything, Speed Week was the big hullabaloo, and we did, I think, almost all the fast shows at Wayne this year, and they all ran great. They were all good races. So I think that's in good hands. But yeah, like you said, where does that leave them in this area? Ohio has a lot of dirt tracks, but do they just go to Eldora? Do they just go to Sharon? Do they just hit the big marquee tracks?
I think with Kyle and Brad both liking Wayne County, I think that'll be some place that we'll probably most definitely see them back to, whether that's the weekday show or whether that's a big show or what that show actually works out to be. I think is going to be a lot to do with how they schedule everything else. I'd love to see them do a big weekend there at before Eldora or something like that, and bring some of those guys in. We like racing against big teams too. It's not just the small teams. Even our local guys like to show up to Wayne County and race against all of those guys. Like I said before, it's good exposure for all of us, for all of our sponsors, for all the track sponsors, everybody who puts all this stuff together. It's big for all of us. Doing even the simple things in this off season, like sitting here talking to you guys here for the podcast. These things are all great for all of our local area sponsors and tracks.
Yeah, and I think it's Dan had said it best like 2 weeks ago. Having you guys on puts a face to the car or whatever that you see the fans see every week, and we've kind of picked up a little bit of exposure recently from our photos at Wayne, and it is nice. It's a good connection for all of you guys to come on, talk, tell your story. I'm sure we'll get to that here in a few, but and put a face to the name. Mm-hmm. They see your car out there every week. Well, what does he look like? If you're not in the pits or this or that, no one knows what you look like.
You're not wrong. Sometimes that ain't a bad thing though either.
Yeah, we're just the dummies out in fluorescent vests. So
see, and that's what I've kind of noticed with the dirt world. You see it all the time at asphalt tracks. That they'll have like autograph nights, and they'll bring the cars out onto the track. The fans will come out, and you'll have autographs and stuff like that. And I haven't really seen that at dirt tracks, really.
Usually you see it about one night a year. They do a fan appreciation night. I know at Wayne County he does. This year, I believe it was threatened with rain and some other stuff. So a lot of it was postponed or kind of rushed through. I know Attica does a full open pit night where they just open up the pits and let everybody come in, and then they usher everybody back out again. I know that a lot of racetracks handle that a lot different. But it's something I wish they'd do a little bit more of, or even I hate to say it. I know everybody's out to make a buck. I mean, that's what racetracks are trying to do to try to survive. So we understand, running 5 classes or 6 classes and trying to get the night done and trying to fill it up with as many things as they can. But it hurts on the backside of things, because when the races are over with, people doesn't usually stick around anymore, where they used to come back in the pits after the races and hang out, and far be it to drink a beer and just kind of relax and talk to teams and talk to drivers. And I think that's what sparks a lot of kids to want to stay into this sport and to come into it and stay, is being able to come back, meet the drivers, climb into cars, do those kind of things. So I wish we were able to do more of that. I know that my car is probably one of the last ones out of the pits, whether it's Wayne County, Attica, Fremont, Eldora, it doesn't matter. We're usually one of the last ones out because we're hanging around talking. Like I said, just trying to enjoy the night and enjoy everybody. So
yeah, that's one thing. Kyle comes from an asphalt background. I grew up going to asphalt tracks. This is the first I've ever really been involved in racing. So, and we've said since really starting this year, going to the dirt, that the people at the dirt tracks are the nicest people.
Usually you're pretty great. You meet a lot of great people through this whole thing, be it on other teams or just families in general. A lot of times your friends become family. It's kind of how my whole team is, about all the guys that help. And we have barbecues and different things during the week that just from everybody coming over and hanging out, we'll have pizza parties and just kind of hang out and work on the race car. And sometimes ladies will come inside and read books or do whatever they want to do too. And a lot of it's family and friends.
Yeah, we were discussing with Dan a couple weeks ago of already, like, we should try and figure out how to do like a chili bowl stream or something, because we talk so much, and we even ended up in a group chat with Dan that we send each other silly TikToks all the time or all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things where some of the nicest people. Last year I had gone to I went to SRX at Sharon, and that was a little bit more of the NASCAR crowd out there. It was really funny watching a lot of the older people. They wore their best out to the racetrack to go see the golden era stars out there, and they're afraid to get dirty. Yeah, Sharon's got that old asphalt track that you walk on, and big piles of clay everywhere, and Grandpa in his fresh New Balances is trying to avoid the mud. But yeah, and then I went to Speed Week and the canceled High Limit show, and you just immediately made friends with someone standing behind you in the beer line or the Kyle Larson autograph line. And yeah, it was definitely a little bit of not saying that the asphalt people are mean or nasty or anything, but it was crazy how everyone, you're like, oh yeah, this is only my first race at, Wayne County. And oh, well, be prepared. You're going to be back. And yeah, we were there like 9 times this summer.
Most often you'll find guys that once they come once, they'll continue to come back. I didn't find too many of them that I've ever brought to the racetrack that only ever came once.
Except for Kyle's dad will be one of those guys.
Yeah. My parents came out. It was the one night it was really, really dusty. I think the water truck had broke.
Ohio.
It was a few weeks before the end of the season. And they won't be ever back. And
That's a bummer.
So the last few dirt races I went to like 1 or 2 as a spectator, and one I was announcing at Deerfield, and so I was in the tower, and then I've been in the infield, so I was like, oh yeah, it's not dusty at all, like you're fine. And then they send me a text message with a picture like, not dusty. I have since. They were like, thanks for telling us we needed like goggles or whatever. And I was like, oh, I never get dusty or dirty.
Should have taken them chairs and just put them in the infield of Wayne County.
Yeah.
See, they'd have loved it.
Oh yeah.
Right. Usually, if there's somebody that's asphalt, usually the first racetrack I try to tell them they should go to is Attica, believe it or not. And only because usually at Attica, you're far enough away from the racetrack that you don't get too terribly dirty. So it kind of gets that hook dug in just a little bit. Where Wayne County, you're on most nights, you're leaving with a little bit on you. It's not that it's terrible, but there's some nights that it's pretty bad. So we always hope for better. And I think they try. That's not to put a boast to Jason and his crew or anything else. I mean, those guys definitely bust their butt to give you the best they can. And I think all the racetracks do for the most part. It doesn't always work out that way in Ohio, but they try.
Yeah, because you never know if it's going to be, 90 with 90% chance of rain or 90 with just humidity and nothing's leaving.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I listen to, so when I'm at the track, I'm listening to the driver radio and the officials channel. And it just, well, first of all, Jason does go pretty nuts on both of them. Well, actually, he's really nice to you guys. And
I got him too.
Yeah. And then, quite the opposite to some of his staff members, which I get it. I've been in the management role, being, you got to be a little nasty sometimes to both parties. But the level of commitment he has to the fans, and when he's on that radio, especially like the last night, when he was talking about, okay, we need to just cinch that hose. We need to just get a little bit of a wet line on the outside to make it for better racing for the fans. And, they do an amazing job down there at Wayne. It's that they actually care. And at some racetracks, you can see that they don't care. And they definitely do care.
Like I said, I think Jason and his crew do a great job. I think they do the best that they absolutely can. A lot of times there's been series that have called Jason nuts for some of the things that he's done, but he's managed to put together shows, and where a lot of other guys or a lot of other promoters might have pulled the plug and canceled way sooner. He at least tried to get the race in, and that's all we can ask once we're there is to try everything you can, because at me as an owner, that's an expense. It's not an expense I'm getting back. It's just another expense. And with this sport, the way that it's headed right now, and the things that, the way things keep escalating in cost, it's making it extremely tough for small teams to continue to survive. I think, at least right now in racing in this area, it's awfully tough to even break even anymore. I think last time we checked, the average cost to run a 410 sprint car and to run up front every night, is somewhere around $1,200 a night, just to drop your door and to race. So it's definitely up there. This isn't for something we're doing to get rich anytime soon. This is pure passion. And I think that's kind of the difference between a lot of the pavement guys too versus the dirt guys. A lot of this is passion in the sport and continuing to do it for our next generation coming up, be it my kids or somebody else's that are watching and doing it.
That was one of the questions I had, because you see all the YouTube videos and the articles about how much it is to, drop a door in a all-stars, night, and they're saying 10,000 a night and this and that. And, you got the Outlaws team saying if we're not making, 2,500, it's a this amount loss. And yeah, I was curious you see it on the big side, but where's it come down on this local, smaller side of what does it cost every night? Are you guys going through, you see like the All-Stars guys, they're putting on fresh tires every night. Are you guys able to run them a little longer?
It honestly depends. If the keys to the water truck are found, some nights we can get more than a couple nights on them. But for the most part, if you want to run up front, anywhere in Ohio, it doesn't pretty much matter which track you go to. you better be putting on at least one new tire a night for the most part. I think most guys would agree with that. At $356 for a right rear tire or a left rear tire right now, it adds up really, really quick. We usually tend to get like 2 to 3 nights on a left rear, but our right rears are usually only a night or maybe 2.
Yeah.
And that's if we don't get them cut down. We have that problem at a couple of racetracks where we cut tires often. So it's an expensive deal when you put this all together and you play it out. It definitely is right around that $1,200 a night mark. We figure in the amount of fuel that we burn, and then oil changes every 4 nights. Some guys are less. I run mine 4 nights, oil filter with it, every night. And then you turn around and engine rebuild, time you break that down over, 20 races on a motor, and you break that $12,000 down into there, it adds up really quick when you start putting those things together, along with a $35 or $40 pit pass for each one of your crew members and your family that go. So that's a fair, safe mark, I'd say, is that $1,200. You might be able to do it for, $800 for a lower team, something that's you're just getting started and you're getting by, but it generally costs you $800 minimum to drop your door and go race anywhere. It's definitely not a get rich, like I said, not a get rich scheme or anything like that for 99% of the teams. Even with our sponsors and stuff, we bust our butt for them. Social media stuff, and we do like different shows and different things that we offer for all of our marketing partners that are on the car, and we do the best we can for them because of that reason. Without them, 90% of us wouldn't be able to compete or just drop our trailer doors.
Now, in the dirt world, did you guys have to deal with that tire shortage the last few years? Did that hit you guys as bad as it did the asphalt world?
It hit pretty hard. The asphalt world was kind of different, but they limited us to, they were restrictions. You can only buy one tire. You can, we were stuck just using what we had for a lot of cases. There was a lot of big teams bought up a bunch of tires, so they didn't have that problem. The smaller teams are where it kind of fell into, well, we need a tire, but we can't buy a tire because there is no tires. Or you go to an all-star race and they give you a chip so you could go buy one tire, or World of Outlaw, they gave you chips so you could go buy one tire, and you bought it whether you needed it or not, because if you didn't, the next week you may not have had one. I really wish Hoosier would have done some more homework. If there's one person I would say I'd bash about this whole thing is Hoosier. The best thing they could do is give us a tire that was hard and something that would hold up. I'd be more apt to pay $280 for a tire that I could run for 5 nights. At least if I ran it for 5 nights, maybe I had a chance of breaking even or getting some money back out of that tire. You're going to hurt the competition is what they say, but if everybody's on the same tire, we're not hurting the competition. And no offense, but fans generally would never know that we were going 5 mile an hour slower than what we were to begin with.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's noticing, the sprint cars going any different around the track as many lines and this, that, and the other. I don't think anyone, there might be the one guy in the stands that's been going there for 30 years that can tell the difference. But, for everyone else, it's just, they're going fast.
It's racing. And I think that's probably the biggest thing we have going for us right now is there's still a lot of racetracks that are open and racing. Unfortunately, we've got 5 of them right now in the area that are posted for sale. So that's a scary deal, especially with the All-Stars dropping out stuff. This all plays into that silly season and that fear of the unknown of what's going on in our sport right now. Hopefully somebody buys those racetracks and continues to make them, and they don't become a land development area
or Copar, since they seem to be buying them all, so they
right.
don't have to pay the development of oil and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And we've lost a few over the years in this area, including, with Lakeville Speedway, and it became I guess there's a residence on it now because he wasn't allowed to use it for farm field, and that's what he wanted to use it for. But we've lost a few, with Mansfield Speedway being just 1 mile from my house. It can go away in a heartbeat, just a little bit of bashing. So I try my best not to bash any one racetrack about anything, because I see the effects of that even now, and I'm not that old, and I'm not that old in this sport, but been around it a long time, my whole life, with my dad racing for 38 years, and just this area of where we're at, it's sad to see racetracks close.
Yeah, Mansfield was a weird case in particular, because I mean, it was a facility that was probably as nice as Eldora. It's the owner previous to turning it into a dirt track spent a lot of money on creating a premier. I mean, the trucks race there. I mean, it was such a nice facility, and from the few races that I've seen on YouTube of All Stars or World of Outlaws that went there, they look like pretty decent races, and it definitely had enough room to pack stands. I guess it just couldn't handle a weekly show, or
it was the pavement side could not. I will say that the pavement side definitely could not. So when the racetrack first changed, that was Dean Bolton that had bought the racetrack, and I remember when he took it over the last time that they had the reunion, or not reunion, but the end of the year awards, was actually right out here at Hunsinger Park, right across the street from where the racetrack was on Crawl Road. And he stood right up there and told everybody that he didn't give two plug nickels about the dirt track guys, because he was going to pull all of his cars from Columbus and Barberton. Well, that didn't work out real well for him, and that paved the racetrack and run it down so much that it closed up. And then Zeroto or whatever his name is that bought it after that is one that put all the money into it. And then it went to Grant Milliron. And then now Grant just passed, I guess it's in probate going to his son. But they've already broke it into 5 different parcels. And some of that land had gotten sold off now. So there's a chance that it could still come back as a racetrack, but it's probably a slim chance at best. And unfortunately, with the dirt program that they put into place and the guy that they hired to put that in, I'll say it right here in front of everybody. I think the guy's a crook, and I know he took money out of my pocket and many other teams that were there for the Sprint Car World Championship race that never happened. And we never got a dime back. And his excuse was, well, you guys don't understand how much it costs to put that show on. We rightfully do. We bought a lot of stuff to make those races happen, and did a lot of promoting for our sponsors and did a lot of promoting, of that race to make that happen as well. And ultimately, I believe it was his demise that caused a lot of the failure when it come to the racetrack. He was good at putting together the dirt in December or whatever at Gateway and putting that race together for them. But when it come to working a racetrack to make it a long-term thing, the racetrack was horribly put together and done in such a fast fashion that he didn't bother sifting rocks out. It really run the racetrack down. And I think that's what killed that Mansfield. Personally, that's where I'm at. Not everybody might share my opinion, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, we had driven by it multiple times this summer because we did a Mid-Ohio to Norwalk one weekend, driving back and forth. And driving by it was just a sad state.
You drove right by my shop.
Are you over by the prison?
Yep, I'm in between. I'm actually 1 mile from the racetrack. If you pulled out of the racetrack and turned right onto 545, you don't even need to look up at the road. And when your odometer turned 1 mile, you turn the wheel left, you'll pull in my driveway. That story, I think they laugh about it. One of the first World Championship races they put on there, we broke a motor in hot laps, and we loaded the race car up and brought it home to change the motor. Changed the motor at home and then drove back to run the beam mains. So
I think Casey Kane's team did that at World of Outlaws finale this year. They just loaded the car up, went back to the shop, and whatever, Charlotte borough or suburb they were in, and just did it that way.
Sometimes comforts of home, right?
Yeah, it's a lot better than doing it at the track, but I've definitely seen a lot of guys change engines, drop transmissions, everything in the pits, and I can't imagine doing it without like a pad under you. It's got to be hell.
You just do it. It isn't so bad.
You don't care at that point. You're just thrashing, trying to get back.
It genuinely takes, I mean, even the smaller teams, you got it down to where it takes you half an hour. You can pull a motor, put a motor in, and be back on the racetrack in a half hour. It's just part of racing anymore. You just, if you have one, you're great to be able to do that. If not, you just go home. It just depends on the night and what you're doing. If you're racing with the World of Outlaws, or you're racing at, a weekly show at Wayne County, it's time to go home and just lick your wounds. And if it's a weekly show, there's no reason to be thrashing to put another motor in to get your $200. Just go ahead and go home and worry about it next week, because you got a bill coming for the other side. So
yeah, I've seen a lot of guys to that respect. They just load their car up and just go grab a beer and just sit in the stands and watch the rest of the night.
Watch the rest of it unfold.
Yeah.
Watch them poor souls tear their stuff up.
Hoping somebody else doesn't or does. I mean, depending on if you like them or not, have the same luck you do.
I wish no bad luck on anybody. I've got enough of my own, bud.
Yeah, you just hope whoever's ahead of you in points, does really bad that night.
I help them. It doesn't matter. I help them. We're in the infield and something breaks, you help them. You don't not. It doesn't matter what your relationship is. It doesn't matter where things are at. I think that's one of the greatest things we got in our sport, is a lot of camaraderie when it comes to that in the dirt world.
Yeah, you see, all the teams just swarm a car. I can't remember what one of the all-star races I was watching one night. There's like a 3-car pileup, and you got like 15 guys over there on every car trying to thrash them to get them back out. So yeah, completely agree on that one. Everyone's just trying to make sure everyone is taken care of.
It's a rewarding and humbling thing all at the same time.
So yeah, you said your dad was a racer, so that's how you came into this. Did he race sprints? And
my dad ran with the Sprint Bandit Series, ASCS. He run before that. He raced at Wayne County for, like I said, his whole career. My dad raced at Wayne County. So that was from 1968 on till I pulled him out of retirement, and he's raced in every decade up until the 2020. So since the 60s. So I keep telling him that I got to put him in the race car for one night, and we got to go out and race, just so I can say that he's raced in every one of the decades up until now. So, but at 73, he's not interested in climbing back to the car right now.
I wonder why.
Well, he drove. Actually, when I first put my car together, and I did it as my own deal, and built a team and put the car together and did everything. My dad started out driving for me the first year, just to say we did it and to have a good time again, and kind of enjoy it as a family. And we did that the first year, and then the second year, I bought another car, a little nicer piece, and put that together, and we were running it. And he bounced off the ground one time in one of the holes at Wayne County or whatever, and come down and landed on the frame and tweaked his back a little bit. And at that night, then Mitch Harbaugh had broke his motor, and Mitch Harbaugh ended up driving for me the next 2.5 seasons. I think Mitch drove for me, and that's the last time my dad drove. But we traveled all over the countryside, at least on this coast, and raced all over the place. I think we run fourth in the national ASCS point steal the one year, and my grandfather raced before him, and all of his brothers had raced. And go to the other side of things, my mom was a track photographer, actually up there in Canton, is where they went to school and where my mom grew up and lived. My grandfather was Sam Stockin. He ran a slot car track, or they owned a slot car track that was up there too. And he raced all over the place, midgets and sprint cars. And now the debunked Midwest Sprint Car Series, my grandmother and him actually put together in Indiana for the non-wing stuff and did all of that. I have a cousin who runs professionally with USAC, Chase Stockin.
Okay.
So ties run deep.
It runs real deep. It's
So
there's more, but that's the majority of.
Did your dad ever run at Canton Speedway or Cloverleaf back in the day?
I would have to ask him. I've heard so many stories over the years, and to be honest, to pick one individual track out like that'd be tough for me to do without me, to be honest with anybody. Outside of talking about McCutcheonville or things like that, that would, be the other racetracks that I've, actually know I've heard stories about. I used to enjoy going to Shirley Thompson used to put together this deal, and she was a name that ran around here in Ohio for a long time with Shirley and Joe Thompson. And she used to hold a racers reunion for old timers. And that was actually one of the things that I enjoyed doing with my dad, was going down there and listening to some of these guys that were at that time, they were in their 70s and my dad was in his 50s. So, this is 28 years ago or 30 years ago at this point. But I remember going down there and listening to those guys talk about all these different racetracks, Cloverleaf and stuff, things that they raced all the time, whether they were at Ashland racing around the horse tracks or whether they were going to, up to Barberton, or they were going to these different racetracks to race, and they still hold grudges to this day. I think it was awesome. They're wanting to throw beer cans at each other. It was a great time. As a kid, I remember growing up, going down there, and it was a great time to see it happen. But
yeah, I have some great memories of going on. We used to have Sunday dinners when my dad, in his last few years of his racing career, and we'd have Sunday dinners, and it was the former owner of Barberton Speedway, Rich Lucius, which is actually truck champion crew chief Rich Lucius's father, and then it was Old Man Miller, the dad of former owner of Deerfield Speedway, and then my dad's sponsor, and just the stories that they would go on of back in the old days racing, and the fights and how they cheated it up and everything was great story.
We used to have guys that stopped over at the shop. My favorite guys that always stopped over was Larry Denninger. Larry was, 7 foot tall. The pictures he'd bring over of him crowded inside of some of these old modifieds with his head. I mean, if it was under the roll bar, sometimes it was over the roll bar. It's like, man, you killed yourself back in the day. And he goes, yeah, but man, we had a lot of fun. And to listen to the stories that those guys tell, Skip Neal was another name that was always around my dad's house. We ended up with a lot of guys, Pat and Jay Foltz, the just names that come to mind of racing, for a long time around my house, with just people who came over. Ed Mogleton, just getting to meet some of those guys, not knowing who they were. And I laugh about Jack Hodenshield. It's one of the best stories I think I could tell is with those guys. Those guys all put their pants on the same way. Jack's somebody that's never forgot where he came from or who he was or anything else. And I guess one of the reasons why so many people love Jack is he never has that bone in his body that made you feel like you weren't something other than a friend all the time. So between Jack and I used to take Brandon Schnicke, I was talking about earlier with you, kind of with they used to race go-karts for me. And we went to Attica for the first World of Outlaw race, and I walked right into Jack's trailer and just walked in, and he stopped at the end of the trailer because he was nervous. And I walked in and spent about 5 minutes in with Jack just BSing and come back because I realized that Brandon wasn't there. And he goes, man, I can't believe you just went in there. That's Jack Hodenshield's trailer. You should do this. I said, yeah, it's just Jack. It doesn't matter. It's Jack. Like, it doesn't faze me. I don't think about those things. So, but we've got a lot of big names that come from this area. Jacobs is another one that's just a huge name that has just always been somebody that's been around. whether it be Dean, Kenny, Lee, Trey, all those guys in their right, in their right are just great people. RJ, Garrett, Randy, great people to be around, especially to have in your corner at times. So,
yeah. So on the Jacobs, is Trey driving for you this year, or I know you guys have closed the season out together? Or
no,
still working on that.
That's Trey's deal there to talk about. I'd say, but no, our arrangement for me and Trey was strictly to finish out the end of the year. With him knowing that they were kind of running low on equipment and stuff there at the end, and trying to do what he was doing. And me, I just wanted to keep racing after my split with Ray Hall and just try to, move forward and try to close out the year, kind of having some fun and doing some things. And we had a lot of fun with Trey, and we love Trey and Michaela. Like, they're like family to us too. And we'd do anything for any of those guys still to this day. But Trey will not be in the 19 next year. Not saying that he wouldn't be back in the 19 if something changed or whatever, but for right now, that's not the direction that things are going in.
Okay. Do you have a driver for next year, or still working on that one?
So,
not ready to announce?
Not anything ready to announce. We have a lot of things that we're working on behind the scenes. That's just part of that whole
silly
needing the
season
schedules and needing the silly season to be over with, because a couple of the guys that we have talked to, there's one other guy that I'm actually going to make a phone call to probably when we get done here to set up a meeting with next week. There's a lot of things that are up in the air, and some of these guys have got ride offers that are contingent upon what happens with another series or what they were doing before, and kind of where their sponsorship stuff lands. And that's part of this thing. And man, I really wish they'd hurry up and do something, because it makes our jobs tougher if you're not locked in.
When I first got back into racing a few years ago, and I had been out of it for a long time, I grew up, my dad watched NASCAR. We went to Barberton a lot. I didn't understand what silly season really meant until I started really paying attention to it. And then this past year, I would say, has just been the silliest of silly season, whether you're a NASCAR fan, an IndyCar fan, even into the F1 with this team announcement and that team announcement, this manufacturer is trying to get it. I mean, now you're getting into this stuff in the dirt world. It has been the silliest of silly seasons.
Yeah.
Of
100%.
just, you don't know what's going to happen next, and I was going to bring this up earlier. One of the things I've been noticing with the news with All Stars and High Limit and this or that is, especially on Facebook, there's a lot of, I would say, unjournalistic journalists out there reporting things. I saw something, I think it was today or yesterday, where someone said they were trying to do 50 midweek races in High Limit. And I was like, no, they're trying to do 50 total across the country.
Correct.
But you see some of this stuff and you're like, no, that's not what it is. And then
there's only 52 weeks in a year.
Well, yeah. Are you going to run
a long season?
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of that, no one has that, like, okay, this has, that integrity of this is true, this or that. And, so yeah, I couldn't believe trying to be in your guys' seat of just trying, okay, well, we had a High Limit race last year and we were slated for 2 All-Stars. So, maybe we'll get one out of it this year. And you turn around and it's none because of, whatever or whatnot.
Or I just didn't like you. Like,
yeah,
some of this stuff is crazy, as just simple as that. Like, it just has a bad taste in my mouth, and I don't want nothing to do with that person or that series. So we're definitely in a weird point, and I'm trying not to pass judgment on any of them. I've said this to about everybody. I think there's a huge opportunity for one of these series in the area to step up. And right now it seems like that's Aaron Fry in the Fast Series. And enjoyed my time racing with Aaron. I think he tries to be as completely fair and honest as he can be for the racers. At the same time, that's not saying that I love everything about that deal. There's some things obviously that I'm not happy with or don't like, but it's not my call. So I just get to make the decision whether or not I'm going to go and run those races. And I will say that I would go and run Aaron's races, and I actually fully plan on trying to run that series next year, depending upon what that looks like, because I definitely couldn't be an all-star. I can't afford to do an all-star schedule. So if that's what Aaron tries to put together, which I don't believe it's going to be at any point, but I think that he's trying to make it more of a working man's all-stars, which is what the all-stars originally started out at as Moss. And I think that's hopefully the direction that he's trying to continue to carry it, the way that he writes his articles anyhow.
Yeah, it's been definitely interesting because we all saw, the writing was on the wall all summer with the all-star thing. And you're like, I kind of hope it doesn't, because, you don't want to. I think we're all just speculating at this point, but you're like, I don't want to lose, my track or this or that, or, and everyone's just waiting now. We're a couple months out from when schedules would normally be released for all your local tracks. And
we don't know what any of that's going to look like. And that's, like I said, I'm trying to reserve some, reservation when it comes to what that's going to be and what it's going to look like, because I don't want any one of these series to fold up. I mean, that just takes money out of our racetracks' hands and leaves them less room to promote. And I think that's something that's huge in this deal right now, is our voice on social media. Because, man, you can say, well, I don't like that guy, or I like that guy, and push the crowd so hard one way or the other that you lose all ground that you could have made up. So I'm rooting for all of them, because I want all of us to succeed. I want the racetracks to succeed, because without them, we can't race. And we already established it. We do this out of passion more than we do anything else, because we're all idiots spending the money that we spend doing it. It's a huge opportunity. So I hope that one of them truly does step up to the table to give us what we need in this area. I haven't seen anything released for that Maverick series. That guy put together a pretty stellar looking package before all this all-star and high limit stuff came out. So I'm kind of curious to see what that's going to look like. And then Dwayne does a great job with the AFCS stuff. I'd be great to see that thing kind of take off just a little bit more for him too. And Randy does a great job with the OVSCA stuff down south, in southern parts of Ohio there, where he's doing that. So hopefully they all kind of get together and get something that works for everybody, and we can all kind of continue on. But
yeah.
getting this hamster wheel rolling seems like to be the biggest hang up right now. Only thing I will say is I hope Aaron's listening, and I hope Aaron pays attention to the scheduling conflicts that everybody complains about with Speed Week. Can you work on that one, Aaron? That's what I'd like to say. I hate running across. I love running that week, but man, that it just kills you, because you start here in the state, you go to here, then you go down to here, then you go back up to here, then you back over to here, then back over to here, then over to there. It's like we drive 3,000 miles in the state of Ohio. Like, what are we doing here? This is not economical, and not what's right for the racers or fans that are trying to run the whole week as well. Like, I think we could put together something better, and I hope that they can somehow make that work. But
yeah, because that's one of my tentative plans this summer, is I'd like to follow at least the northern half of the state, depending on how it all goes that week, is just follow it around. We'll be at Mid-Ohio, I think, the starting weekend, right, Kyle?
Yeah, we have.
And if there's something,
June and July are definitely our busy months.
Be curious to see how that turns out with all the new paving going on down there too.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. If it's going to be a Road America situation where, everyone's sliding off, is that one of the reasons NASCAR's not coming back? Because they're just like, let's see how this one goes. Well, yeah, because speaking of economics, how is it economical to go out to Portland I think DBC a few years ago was saying that's $30,000 a team to go out to Portland than just going up to Mid-Ohio. And Mid-Ohio packed the place especially for Xfinity trucks. They had a decent crowd, but I don't know. And I'm interested. This time of year so weird where you're just waiting, you don't know what to do on Sunday because there's not a race on. You don't know what to do on Saturday night because you're not at the track, and you don't have a schedule to start looking forward to. You just.
I know what I'm doing. I'm in the garage. You would find me. That's where I'm at. I'm there or working, trying to make sure that we've got what we need to get the job done and do it all year. It's a lot. Like we finish up the season and you turn right around, you start back in. Like it's a matter of getting things ready, getting cars ordered, getting materials in, because that's still something since COVID that we're all still struggling with is getting product. There's a steering shortage. Like you can't buy a new steering right now. Like you can't buy one. They're something like 3,300 steerings behind. So it's crazy to think that there's that many people trying to buy steering gears, but there is.
I'm a mechanic by trade, and Ford Transit vans right now, you can't find a wheel hub, rear wheel hub to save your life.
Oh, wow.
We ordered them straight from Ford, and we ordered them the beginning of September. They just came in on Monday. And thankfully, I found an advanced warehouse in this area had like 4 of them. So I might have had the last 4 in Ohio sitting in my shop, because I think I have like 20 I take care of. And Ford being Ford, they put pop metal ABS rings on them, and they just pop right off. So yeah, I mean that stuff we're having trouble with some tires sometimes, and just random little things we can't find to save our lives.
I bashed Hoosier a minute ago, so I will give Hoosier this, though. At least they finally got rid of making 18 different right rear tires and stuff for the dirt world for us sprint car guys. It was absolutely ridiculous how many tires they were trying to produce and trying to keep up on. And it's no wonder. It's no wonder why they were losing money. I mean, why would you? Yeah. There was nobody in business that would do the things that they were doing, trying to just do what they did.
That seems to be the Hoosier. If you're into like any racing history, that seems to be the Hoosier like business plan, is just do the weirdest things and hardest things possible. Because there's all those old NASCAR videos of like the Talladega. No, that was Firestone and Goodyear. But yeah, all that stuff of
same scenario though. I mean, yeah. Kind of the same thing kind of happened in sprint car racing and tires too. Like the way that they came in and bought the sport. Like Hoosier bought the sport. There's nobody would argue that one bit, that they came in and said, well, we're going to give you a point fund and you're going to run our tires, and kind of pushed Goodyear to the side and kind of stopped all competition, because American Racer couldn't produce a tire, or McCurry back then. They couldn't produce a tire that anybody would run because they weren't allowed to race it anywhere. And once they did that, they stopped all of the tire wars. So right now we're ended up with, like I said, $254, $256 for a right rear tire. And the price just continues to go up. I'm sure they'll release again this year that it's going to go up another 3% or something like that. So it's a tough deal, but it's what we do. We're all, like I said, we're all idiots. We're going to keep spending the money anyhow. So it doesn't matter until we're all broke and dumb.
Yeah.
It's what we'll be left with.
But yeah, Hoosier and that was why, when you brought that up earlier, I was going to ask about that, because there was some drivers complaining about all the Hoosier stuff earlier in the year. And I was wondering if that had sorted itself out of the new tire, or.
It amazes me that they've done this for as many years as they have, and they can't get a chalk mark to save their life. Like, it's to the point where it's just a joke. It's potluck. Just go grab one, and whatever it comes out as is what you're going to get, because the tire that's marked an inch bigger than the other one comes up an inch smaller than what the other tire did. Like, company's got issues when it comes to that. I guess there's no quality control when it comes to that. But the tires themselves got better as the year went on, I think, partly because I think they finally got enough of them ahead that they were actually able to leave tires set and let them cure out some before we got a hold of them. I think that's why we still saw some tires at the beginning of the year delaminate.
Okay.
And I know that a lot of tires that they were showing that were delaminating were last year's tires. Like I didn't understand how guys were complaining about tires delaminating when you're still running the old tire. They already told you they were not producing any of them after I think August of last year. They had quit completely. So they were really just buying up whatever they had and running whatever they had in the warehouse for us to use up, moving into production into the new tire. So I think the tires got better. Their sizing sucks, but we're all stuck doing it. So
that's the funniest thing. I've done tires for the last 10 years of my life, and even on your street car, a 215 from Goodyear isn't a 215 from Toyo. I put Toyo proxies on one of my car, and they're 25 millimeters oversized compared to the other brand I had on them before. So yeah, it's
how can a size that's a measurement be different? Quit using a different tape measure. Can we all please start using the same one? I don't care what it is, but it'd be nice if we all got on the same page when it came to it. I'm sure I'd have a lot of owners and tire guys that would agree with me 100% when it come to that. So
can we get an ISO standard on that?
Yeah, right. I look, whatever it takes. If it's an ISO guy, like bring him in. I don't care.
Well, Kyle,
they don't want to take the tires back once we buy them. So once we buy them and mount them, we own them. And that's tough sometimes.
We're coming up on an hour, Kyle. Do you want to, we got anything else? I mean, another interview that just flew right on by. I joke when I tell people I have a podcast, and they're like, I was like, yeah, we talk about racing, but mainly it's just me and my friend having our weekly FaceTime call where we just talk about anything on racing and this or that. So we don't want to keep our guest all night because, you and I can just sit here and jibber jabber all night long.
I'm pretty good at it too. When I ain't doing nothing else, I kind of blinked out my schedule to make sure I could do this and meet with you guys. And it opens up where you're actually able to talk to somebody instead of just being in your head doing stuff on a machine or doing whatever. So made it kind of nice.
Yeah. So real quick, plans for next year. You said, run fast depending on that schedule. I'm sure we'll see you at Wayne County a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, are you going to continue with the white and orange on the car?
Yeah, the fluorescent orange, the fluorescent red's going to stay. It's actually red. It's not orange.
Is it red? Okay.
But it is, but it looks orange, and that's the reason why I go with it. It looks more orange to me than the fluorescent orange, so it is fluorescent red. That's been on the car from day one, and I think that'll probably stay forever. But
okay, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the show, but as cool as black race cars are, they're very hard to photograph. So Kyle and we've said this a few times that sometimes you get stuck on a car that night because it photographs so well. Mm-hmm. And I have a million pictures of that 19 car, because orange is one of my favorite colors. And like you said, it looks orange and it just photographs so well. So
it stands out, which is something that, another thing that we work on to make sure that we can highlight sponsors. And it does help TV time and photographers who take pictures. I know I've shared your stuff, that you've taken that I've gotten. And I always try to make sure that we are constantly tagging those photographers in it, because we do have so many of them out there that do a great job in this area included. And it's nice to see some of those photos, and it actually makes my job easier sometimes selling sponsorship spots and working that in. So I thank you for those.
Yeah, and that was something when we were talking about earlier with the sponsorship and working for next year. Any drivers, team owners, anything, if you want to use your photos in our photos in the proposal, just use the watermarked ones on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
we're involved in the community just as much as you guys are. We're out trying to help. It always does help when someone gets on the website and orders some pictures from us. But hey, I know everyone's struggling. So if you want to use that watermarked one, go for it. And that free little advertisement for us always helps, because that sponsor may want that high res picture to put up in their office or building, and they might come to us and buy it. So yeah, if anyone is looking for that, and message Kyle or I, message the page, and we can always work something out. We're pretty easygoing guys.
Speaking of that, before we get off here, I do want to thank a couple of guys that have been around for a long, long time on the race car. And that's America's Best Bowstrings. Tim, Jerry, Brian, them guys have been on the race car now for, 8 years or 9 years. Them guys have been around and helping out. I really appreciate them. Tom Berkey, Superior Tank and Trailer, Raven Trailer Sales. Guy is just an absolute saint. Anybody that knows him knows that he cares more about racing in this community than about anybody you'd ever meet ever in your life. We have Bill and Jackie with BCI dental specialists. They build dentistries and medical facilities and do an outstanding job. Their entire crew does, and we love having them around. We have Darren and Tracy with DTX Detailing. They do big rig trucks and do a lot of detailing stuff for them. Racers Realm does all of our powder coating down here in Lucas, Ohio. He does a lot of body work and really cool stuff like Lumalore. If you're ever interested in anything like that, it's kind of cool to go out and check out. We have Newland Bar Service that helps take care of all the torsion bars and stuff for us every week. Doug Berryman does all of our shocks. Guess I think I hit them all. It's one of the things that's really nice to be able to voice and thank all those guys that do help every week in and out. My crew, Gary Elliott, my dad, George Prosser, my son, Zane, just those guys that spend a lot of hours away from things they could be doing that they spend with me and spend in this garage. So thank all those guys.
The end of every interview we do needs to be like the NASCAR, the stereotype. Well, I need to thank all my sponsors, because without them, you guys wouldn't, you'd be struggling out there, even broker every week.
Don't forget to thank your wife.
Oh, I thank her every chance I get. And I was saving that till the end. Yeah, my wife Misty does an awful lot for me and the team. She takes care of a lot of the merch order stuff and the back end of things that keeps me on track with taking care of book work for the race car. So without her, a lot of stuff would be a lot more screwed up than what it is. Let me tell you. So
that's one other thing. I have a Ray Hall shirt from last year. If any drivers ever, you need to sell a shirt, I'm your guy. Kyle knows this. I will buy T-shirts from all of you.
You have hats or shirts. He kind of has a problem, folks.
Got an obsession.
You just got what? You have 30 hats now?
30 hats up on my rack. And then there's a big box. I don't know if you can see it back behind me on the tire. That's just full of koozies. I don't drink that much. I drink maybe once every couple months, but hey, they're cheap, fun little souvenirs that I can $5. All right, here you go.
Well, stop down at the trailer. I got a couple. I'll hand you anyhow.
All righty. So I mean, go ahead, Kyle.
Chris, did you ever hang up that NOS hood that you got?
No, it's in my garage. It's too big. I got a Kyle Busch big NOS bar sign like thing. And I was going to put it right behind me over the window as a backdrop, and it doesn't fit with the bumper. So I have to move things around. I've just been too busy.
Hey, buying a shirt, buying a hat, man, that goes a long way to help small teams.
I did music stuff for years, touring bands. I've been over half the country with bands before. So yeah, I was the guy selling the shirts, slinging the shirts and CDs. So I know how much, that $50 thrown into the gas tank helps.
I did leave one other one off my list, and I need to thank him too, and that's TSR, Tony Stewart Racing. Not the Tony Stewart you're thinking of, but our Tony from Central Illinois and Missouri. And man, my mind just went blank there for whatever reason saying Illinois, but Tony's been around for a long time too. He's a good friend of the family. He comes over, I think, once a year. He didn't get to make it out this year. They had some medical issues, but I know we look forward to seeing him every year at the Four Crown race out at Eldora. So hopefully he comes back this year. We get to do that again. But yeah, it's any chance you got to buy a T-shirt from any one of these guys, that's huge. You know, it's good advertisement for all of our sponsors to be able to say that we did those things, and for them to see them out in public. I laugh. I was on vacation in another country and saw racing shirts of people in our area, so I thought that was kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows you how far a lot of this stuff will go. So it reaches a lot of depth from around the world. So it's great to be part of it.
Awesome. I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you so much for coming on today. Like, second interview, another great one. It's not just Kyle and I FaceTiming for the week, you know, talking about whatever we talk about every week. Kyle, you got anything else?
Next week we will have Tyler Street on, Wayne County's sprint car champion from this year. We weren't originally going to do a show next week just because of the holiday, but I guess there was some confusion and he thought he was supposed to be on tonight. So we're adding him.
Tyler.
We're going to add him in next Wednesday. And then I don't know who we have coming up next, but I know we have a few more episodes for this year before we take a couple weeks off for Christmas break and to maybe do a little bit of reformatting. I know our last episode, I think, is December 13th, and we'll have a big announcement then. But again, thank you for joining us, Ryan. If anyone wants to support the show, you can hit us up at buymeacoffee.com/fromtheinfield. We don't have coffee for you to buy, but we do have slices of pizza, which equates to cash money for us to help us put this on. We're always trying to improve the show and the viewing experience for all of you and to give you a product that you deserve. And if you want to check out other things, check out some pictures, motorsportsohio.com and fromtheinfield.com. I think that's all for this evening. Thank you again for joining us, being our second guest.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And we'll see everybody next Wednesday.
See ya.
See ya.